Okay, hi everyone. Welcome to the knowledge sharing session. And my name is Niko. I work at Analytics Instrumentation. And today I just wanted to share our experience. How did we make our product, our tools more user-friendly by example of our tools involvement. So what is analytic instrumentation? Just briefly, we create tools for other teams to use to measure feature adoption, basically. So metrics, summary metrics, which product analytics can see, product analysts can see in the dashboards, as well as events, singular user interaction, like click buttons or create merge request with some metadata. So these tools we create, we try to make them as usable, as friendly as user currently as possible, and document them and to provide other teams to use. But analytics implementation not always was operating in this way, and in the beginning, tools, metrics were mostly implemented by our team. So, and they look completely different. 1 year ago, our stack, our tools, our documentation are looking absolutely completely different. How do we come to the situation? Well, I will just try to describe it. So, as I say, these tools and we're involved in a long time. In the beginning, metrics were mostly implemented by our team, by our engineers who were expert in this domain. That's why, for example, high technical complexity was accepted at the point, because, well, we're working here with our tools, we can just make it more complex to solve different problems, right? But that's fine. That's how normally team operates quite often. And second reason is that analytic instrumentation goals were changing and complexity were evolving quite rapidly, from the simple database metrics to more complex radius metrics to snowplow event tracking and extra metadata accumulating, because like even shift from receiving a singular aggregated metric like amount of active users in the app and to receive every single event with metadata like team, like color of the button, if we do A/B testing, something like that. It's a massive shift, and it comes at the cost of technical complexity again. And well, I measure the technical depth. It's not really technical depth as such. It's more like logical depth and more complexity depth we were accumulating, because we didn't know. We were iterating on that. We didn't really know what is end product is gonna use like. We're just trying to solve problems to see how it goes, and then kind of iterate and make it more usable, more comprehensive, so to speak. Yes, and the third reason is that the amount of features that had analytics attached to them were quite limited, or just a few, maybe more important, or hanging fruits, like how many CI builds do we have? People have how big a company, how many licenses, how many active users. But once a company respond to the market became more data driven, right? We need to measure as much as possible. If we introduce new feature, we want to know how is it adopted, well, not well enough. Maybe there is not situations like that. So once tracking of this adoption became widespread, so amount of metrics and so amount of unique situations which different teams require, they also kind of expanded. And and more people around teams started to implement these metrics and events more frequently. Not like once a year, but let's say once in a milestone. That's a big shift. So, and our initial solution were with with this complexity was not very scalable, because as I say, the company requires more data-driven decision to be made and more data to be collected. More features require more tracking, and since every team involved, the amount of information that they have consumed, and we're keeping in mind that everything is evolving, right? It's not just frozen in time. We add the new trackers, we respond to different team requests, we add the new features, and it's getting complex and it's changing. So if a team member, one team who doesn't really implement that many metrics that often, come back 2-3 months later to implement something else, everything has changed. Well, not everything, but a lot can change, and that's a big headache. And just to illustrate how did that happen, just to show to you on the diagram here, you can see what in the beginning, for example, was simple metrics database. We just need to count something in the user database, like how many, for example, how many merge requests do they create, and we can see how data is growing, right? It's simple. Let's just introduce a metric class, database metric. Fantastic, works a charm. Easy to describe, right? It could be just like a paragraph of text. Oh, now we need, for example, a total counter, amount of page view, or amount of times people click sign out button. Easy. Let's just introduce another metric. That's another paragraph to explaining how to use it. Now we need monthly active users, unique interaction, right? How many unique users created merge requests, just to analyze how the, I don't know, some adoption is happening. Let's introduce new one, easy. Yes, just 3 metrics. Oh, I mean, very solid engineering approach. Now we need more. Oh, no problem. Prometheus class, custom metrics class, which can create anything, probably track absolutely anything around the app. Just 5 metrics from one point of view, not that many, right? Which you can just create 5 probably pages to describe them, and another page how to choose, and another page how to debug them. As engineers, we're sort of happy, right? We just like provide a solution. We just implement it. Classes have very nice inheritance, very light and easy, composition, very good. A lot of supportive classes, everything is test coverage. Good. I mean, as engineers, we're happy. But when we start to ask people, we're always asking people, but at some point, as I say, there's a analytics instrumentation had a more widespread around the company. We've gathered more feedback, we ask, we just like show how it works. And we're quite surprised to say that it's not that simple. Not everybody is happy with us. For example, one of the biggest problems is that implementing metrics can take days, right? As I, for example, give an example before, if someone worked with implement another metric like a year ago, and now coming back and things changes, we need to figure out, okay, I need to track some feature adoption, like for example, governance of data, like some governance of like security policies. They enable to know, oh, which metric do I use? So we have like 5 metrics. I need to think. Well, I'm not sure. Let's just ask Analytics Instrumentation team. Oh, okay, now fine. I asked Analytics Instrumentation team. They gave me answer. I need to implement it. But there is so much stuff, right? There is a configuration, there is specs, there is actual implementation, there is verification. And it's becoming bigger and bigger, the more and more comprehensive, bigger and bigger. And the documentation is also becoming huge, right? I remember even database metric description would take a few pages, quite a few pages, because it's a lot of stuff. And then for a person who doesn't really dive deep into analytics instrumentation, difference between Redis and Redis HHL, it's a leaky abstraction, right? Why Redis and HHL? I mean, you need to know what is HHL is and why do you need it. It's a little bit all messy. And well, as I said, in the point of 3, which one should I choose, right? Doing simple metrics, maybe I can use this database. Why not from database? right? Again, there's a lot of nuances here, which are absolutely 100% can be abstracted, right, and hidden. And at some point, or the pivotal point, is when we introduced a Snowplow event collection, right? So now we're not just counting aggregated metrics, how the app works and adoption. We're just counting on GitLab.com how this user interact. Every single interaction we can see, right? User login, we can see like a geographic position. We can see browser and stuff like that, like Google Analytics, for example. And we can, in the beginning, of course, when we started iterating, we implemented it separately, all separate things, right? These events and these metrics, different things. But then it's another entity added and another complexity. And at this time, it was a feeling that concept of some solid solution is falling apart. It doesn't exist here. So we needed to add something more simple. We need to simplify it greatly. And so that was the situation I described it at the point when we started to shift our kind of mindset from being great engineering solution to be great user-friendly solution, being engineering as well by default. So we set a few goals. We kind of also iterating. It didn't come in one day because it's hard to understand exactly how it should be. But as we're looking backwards, these were actually our goals. Few. So first of all, we needed to hide all this leaky abstraction, like Redis HL or Redis not HL or something else. It should be somewhere there. People should just call one method, just ask, track this event for me, please. And it should do everything, right? A little bit too general, and it cannot, of course, it cannot cover 100% of cases. Sometimes something specific required, but it doesn't matter. If we cover most of them, right, it should be enough. And then also we needed to add tools to automate to creating this all the associated configs and tests and specs and everything, because it's quite a big thing. If we add metric now, we have Snowplow, which is an event. We need to define an event. We have a metric itself. We need to define like what do we want? We want monthly, we want weekly, we want total, we want only enterprise edition, and then it can be not enterprise, like it's context, right? It has to be some source of truth somewhere it has to be defined. And creating by manually, it's kind of big deal, right? You need to create for each metric up to 4 files for one metric, 4 files by manually. And it's very error prone, right? And it's very stressful, and it's a totally unnecessary job if we look backward right now. So we had to make tools to help people to actually not to do the job that a computer can do. And the second, last but not least, is when we need to measure the quality of improvements. If we do something and we just need to understand, do right, basically we need to sort of instrumentate our own improvements to measure feature adoption of our own improvements. Yeah. So, and once these goals were kind of defined, at least in some ways, we started working on that. Right? In small iterations, it took us quite a long time because just for to understand, at the beginning, there was hundreds of metrics already implemented. Some teams, they have the micro framework, which were using our metrics to generate definitions, for example, to ensure specs are like usage is covered by specs, like micro frameworks. And it's not just all unified, right? It's all kind of very different because historically it was involving complexity, right? And so most of the solution, and most correct as looking backward, is introduced a new framework, retire all the old ways to track and the new framework, and this only new framework should be out from now on. It's internal events. Effectively, it's just like a facade around with all the old metrics, sort of. This facade introduced redundancy because some tracking probably not needed here, but it doesn't matter because we free up we hide a lot of complexity under the hood. Just internal events, track me, user created gravatar. That's it. Simple as that. So yeah, the goal is just user add is tracking the code, describe the result metric, and that's it. And get everything for free, right? I want to track this event, and I want to get this unique interaction per month, monthly active users. Very good. This is what we've done. It didn't come for free, as again, we had to migrate all the old metrics to Niko, and we're still doing that slowly. It's really massive work. Just to give you an example, imagine Redis counters, right? Redis keys somehow generated with events, they stored in the memory, and we had to migrate it from old keys to new keys. A big deal, make sure not to lose it, anything. And it's not, and this tracking is not only on GitLab.com, it's also on client machines. You can run different versions. And so it has to be backward compatible, kind of not, it did take some time and effort, and it still does. But it's totally the right way to go if we see later. Second problem regarding complexity of creating all the files, configs, and managing that all the fields are correct, everything. Logical decision here was creating some tools to make it automatically. And thanks to one member of our team who actually came to our team with a fresh eye, she suggested, why don't we use CLI tool, right? Interactive. And as you can see on the screenshot, it's just exactly what we needed, right? It's so basically it became sort of a single source of truth when a developer, in fact, not just even developer, even non-technical person can now at least investigate how this is going to work, or even implement it, create file for that, because it's done through some logical steps from some coherence, so to speak. They just like goes on after another, and you can't do anything incorrect. It's like source of truth. What the way it works now, it's in the tool. It's actually a massive shift here, because the documentation now sort of follows the CLI tool, because if it works in CLI, that's how it's implemented, and then documentation describes it. So in order to investigate how something works, how can some events, metrics can be implemented, there's no need to read documentation. You can just go into CLI, see how it works. Okay, let's create a new event. We just can track unique users. It's all here. We can choose it. There's no way to choose something that is not allowed, that it's not working. And that's it, right? And it works. And it creates new files, and it put it where it should be. This file has to be still created. As I said, it's a single source of truth. It's still about events and metrics. It's in the code base here. But it's abstracted away through the visual tool, which looks actually pretty fantastic. And another thing is when we change something, like for example, if we add a new properties that can be tracked along with every event, just anything, we don't need to necessarily notify every single user, kind of present it. It's still good to do, but it's not necessary because it's in the tool, right? It's no need to read about the new API, because it's just here. It's abstracted away. It's like, would you like to track extra properties with the user? Yes. Okay, cool. What exactly? Which property? Oh, username. Easy, yes. It's already added here. Would you like something else? That's all, right? And that's a massive shift, and it lets actually us to keep cadence, to keep moving faster, and us to moving faster, and people also adopt these new features faster because it's here. And another thing is, for example, was one of the headaches for everyone, including our team, is when developer implements some tracking, how to make sure it works, right? Well, one of the probably the most extreme is just to implement it and then see a few weeks later if inside service ping. Or like in old guides, because it's happening inside Rails, then we need to describe everything like open Rails console, generate event, generate pings, and just dig down these service ping properties and find if it's counted or not. But there is another idea came, and it's this idea that started to came as soon as we realized our goals and situation, and then goals, and then actions actually came naturally. So why don't we create again another CLI tool, which is basically help people to track what's happening with the internal event with what they're working on. For example, in this case, you can see there is one event getting monitored, and we just open this monitor. You can just open Rails app, UI, or console, so it doesn't matter, and then just do some actions and see here what's happening. Oh, okay, I see this event is getting triggered. Fantastic, this name and namespace is coming. We just know where this user interaction belongs to. And metrics actually also getting updated here. It's not just event, it's how the whole chain works, and it's visually represented here. It's like cutting debugging time, maybe, I don't know, 10 times. And complexity is an infinity amount of times, I would say. Well, yes, we've implemented all that stuff, but now we need to measure that, right? It's not like we now need to measure. As well as that, we need to measure that. Are we really moving into the right direction? How can we figure out that? Well, this is work in progress. This is not easy, and as I said on the slide, it will always be, because we need to always iterate to make sure that we're providing right tools and right kind of enough information, is not too complex, not too simplified. So probably the most effective and the most impactful is a pairing session with other groups, and also, of course, time consuming and energy consuming, because you need to reach personally to teams, to developers, to engineering manager, and start working on introducing these new tools and frameworks and gather feedback. Gathering feedback is extremely critical. Then we started to also ask feedback for using bots, and this was actually, I can say, very productive, because it gathered in one place, and this set of questions is pretty defined. And I can say from the few requests that we got, we already created like dozens of improvements already, just in the last milestone, couple milestones, like extremely, I would say, really impactful changes with that. And the last one to do is just asking direct questions. Is just what do you think? Just for example, during team meetings or when we work with other teams, basically just asking direct questions. And for example, it works in many different ways. Like yesterday, I posted announce that we improve a little bit monitor. Now, no need to run Snowplow locally, Snowplow micro at all. No need Docker container. It just has a built-in server, and feedback was positive. And well, we expected that, but we didn't know that serious that some people did big pain to install just Docker just to be able to run the Snowplow micro. Right? This small, relatively simple change to build in small web server just to one endpoint, REST endpoint. People ask, but it's such a big impact and it helps adoption. And this feedback is really valuable. So what are the results of that? Everything. What do you figure out by asking questions? So the first of all, and what we're really happy about is that the implementation part reduced from days to a few hours. Of course, it's not strictly measured. It's not like nobody sitting with a timer, but that's what impression from the people who used to work and who work now is that from days to few hours. There is some numbers like 30 minutes now, because as you see, CLI can generate everything. And in the typical case, it's really just 30 minutes. Just create, merge request, and then we don't count merge request review. It's kind of has its own timeline, but actually figuring out what should go where and create merge request became like so much shorter. We got our single source of truth for users, our CLI tools for metric implementation, which is easy to comprehend and documentation. And for example, I just checked yesterday in our metrics portal, where it's all the metrics listed. In the last 3 milestones, 420 metrics were implemented. The comparison, the previous 3.1, 150. Yeah, so which is the big curve is really going up in the last milestone. And I'm just not sure. I have serious doubt that this many metrics. I mean, of course, it's not just because of the tools. It's just because of requirements to implement this tool. But when we just multiply by the saved hours, it's massive numbers. And I'm not sure that 420 metrics company would be able to create within these 3 milestones if we had all the tools. They were just not designed for that. They were just too much overhead. And pretty much majority of use cases covered by using just internal framework, right? Again, internal events don't track. Sending custom properties, implemented filter by events metadata, anything, pretty much everything, right? We had a lot of changes recently with this AI code suggestion because there is a lot of new complexity, but this internal framework turns out to be so flexible. Well, abstraction is so good. So it's quite easy to add things to it. Again, not everything will ever be covered by that because it's just so many things can be tracked. But again, it doesn't really matter as soon as majority of cases, vast majority of cases, are covered by just single abstraction. So what's next? Of course, our job not stop here regarding our tools. So we're actively seeking for opportunities to simplify things by removing unnecessary parts. We are in current quarter, we just have some really optimistic goals about that, to making it even smaller, to make it even not necessary to create a lot of big config files, even though they're created by a machine, but still they have to be reviewed. So on. We're also trying to reduce service ping generation complexity. This is quite a big thing, quite optimistic and optimistic goal, but that's what we're working on and work in progress here. CLI tools will definitely be involving, following all the improvements that we have in Analytics Instrumentation. And the goal is to make it the only tools that people need for the whole lifestyle for metric, including the removal when it's not needed anymore. And as well as that, we also have a lot of TangiBot rules that helps to verify mostly config files because they are text and not code. They cannot really be tested and easy to make type and so on. And this we try to delegate as much as possible to CI checks. Well, thank you very much for attention, and our team appreciate any feedback, positive, especially negative, because negative helps to improve, but positive is very welcome as well. But yeah, if you have anything to say, if you recently use our tools, if you just don't know where to start and documentation wasn't good or something like that, please just provide us any just feedback. Even one sentence could be really game changer. As you've seen, as I hope I managed to present it, it's really impactful, because within our team, when we kind of silo, it's not probably optimal, can be for everyone. And yeah, feedback is very important for us. Thank you.